And then came Obinna. Oh. Obinna. He was no prince. In fact, he had nothing the world would call valuable. His shirts were faded, and his slippers had seen better days. He didn't go to university. He didn't even finish secondary school. He was a palm wine tapper, just like his late father. But Obinna had something rare, peace. He had a smile that could melt stone. Hands that walked without shame. And eyes that saw straight into your soul. They met by accident. Or maybe, by fate. It was a quiet afternoon. Amaka had gone to the stream alone, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist, a clay pot balanced gracefully on her head. She liked moments like that, when she could sneak away from the noise of privilege and feel ordinary. As she bent to fill her pot, she heard a voice above her. "Sister, be careful. That stone is slippery." She looked up, and saw him. Perched like a young monkey halfway up a palm tree, shirtless, strong arms gripping the rope, his forehead glistening with sweat. She blinked. "I'm not your sister," she said, trying not to smile. Obinna grinned. "Okay. Then I just call you Danger, because only angels look that fine under the sun." She laughed. She didn't want to, but she laughed. And in that moment, something sparked. Something neither of them could name yet. From that day on, they started noticing each other more. At the stream. By the church. Along the narrow bush path that led to the market. And every time their eyes met, it felt like the world paused, just for a second. She would bring him akara wrapped in leaves. He would pluck flowers and give them to her like they were the most precious things he owned. They talked. They listened. They shared dreams. Simple dreams. Honest dreams. A small house by the river. Children running barefoot. Laughter in the compound. Peace. In a world full of noise, they had found quiet in each other. But the heart, my friend, the heart never forgets the touch of true love. And in that short time, under the mango trees and beside the flowing waters, Amaka and Obinna fell. Deeply. Completely. Fearlessly. And that was how it began. Sometimes, the most beautiful love stories are the ones whispered in secret. After that day at the stream, Amaka and Obinna became inseparable, but silently. Theirs was a love that hid in shadows, not because it was wrong, but because the world around them wouldn't understand. They met when they could. When the sun was low and the sky was painted gold. When the village was asleep or too busy to notice two hearts beating a little too fast. Their favorite place was under the big mango tree near the edge of the village, the one people rarely went near because of the old tales that it was haunted. But to them, it was a sacred place. A small patch of heaven where the world disappeared. There, Amaka would sit on a smooth rock, her fine wrapper spread beneath her, her legs crossed, her eyes full of laughter. Obinna would lie beside her, picking tiny leaves from the grass and weaving them into little crowns for her head. "You know," he would say, "if you were born in another life, you'd be a queen in a big city. People would bow when you walked past." And she would smile. "I don't want people to bow, Obinna. I just want peace. I want a man who listens. Who looks at me like I'm more than a bride price." He would touch her hand gently. "Then you already have that. I may not have riches, but this heart," he would tap his chest, "beats for only you." That was how they loved. With no money, no gifts, no big promises. Just truth. Amaka would sneak food from the kitchen, sweet jollof rice wrapped in leaves, puff-puff fried golden brown, and share it with Obinna under the moonlight. He would bring her mangoes from the tallest tree, even climb dangerous branches just to impress her. They talked about the future in whispers. About a small house with blue curtains. About naming their children Chidima and Ebuka. About growing old together, sitting outside in the evening sun, laughing at memories. But no one could know. Not yet. Amaka knew her father's temper. Chief Nadezi didn't even let her talk to boys from rich families unless he had approved them. How would he react if he found out she was falling in love with a palm wine tapper's son? So they stayed careful. They met in secret after choir practice. Shared smiles across the market. Wrote letters and hid them in an empty tree stump behind the primary school fence. But the heart is a reckless thing. One Sunday afternoon, as they walked hand in hand along the back path to the stream, laughing over some silly story Obinna told, they didn't notice their eyes watching them. It was Chidera, Amaka's younger brother. Curious. Quiet. And faster than lightning. By the time they realized, he had already disappeared, running home with fire in his feet and a secret on his tongue. Obinna held Amaka's hand tighter. What do we do now? Amaka looked into his eyes, heart pounding. We pray, and we prepare. Because love that is hidden will one day demand to be seen. When love is caught in the open, it no longer belongs to just two people, it becomes a battle. The sun hadn't even set when Chidera burst into the compound, sweating, breathless, and wide-eyed. He didn't stop to drink water. He didn't pause to think. He ran straight to their father, Chief Nadezi, who was seated in his large cane chair, sipping palm wine and discussing land matters with two elders. Papa. I saw Amaka with that boy. The elders fell silent. Chief Nadezi's eyes narrowed. What boy? He asked, his voice already hard. Obinna. The palm wine tapper's son. They were holding hands. Laughing. Like lovers. The cup of palm wine slipped from his fingers and shattered on the ground. Amaka returned home later that evening, humming quietly to herself, her heart full of Obinna's laughter. But the compound was not quiet. Her father was waiting at the entrance, flanked by her mother and the two elders, their faces cold as stone. Amaka, her father said, come here. She stopped, sensing something was wrong. He looked her dead in the eye. Where were you coming from? Her throat went dry. The stream, she whispered. With who? She hesitated. Don't lie to me, girl. Was it Obinna? Silence. Then, she nodded, just once. That was all it took. Chief Nadezi exploded from his seat. You disgrace me like this. After everything I've done for you. I sent you to school. I raised you in dignity. And you open your legs for a poor, barefoot boy who climbs trees for a living. Papa. Amaka cried, tears springing to her eyes. Don't talk like that. Obinna is not what you think. Shut up. His voice boomed through the compound. Even the chickens scattered. You are my daughter. You will marry from a family of honor, not from people who still live in mud houses and drink Gary for dinner. Her mother, Mama Ifioma, stepped forward, calmer but no less disappointed. Amaka, my daughter, she said gently, you are a woman now. You cannot marry for love alone. Look at the world. Is it love that builds houses? Is it love that pays bride price? That boy can't take care of you. Amaka's heart broke right there in that compound. He loves me, she said softly, voice shaking. He listens to me. He treats me like a person, not a trophy. Isn't that worth something? Chief Nadezi laughed bitterly. You want to marry love? Fine. Marry him. But not under my roof. The day you walk into that boy's house, forget my name. You will no longer be my daughter. Amaka collapsed in tears. They didn't listen. No one listened. That night, they locked her in her room. Took away her phone. Removed the mirror. Even closed the window. As if they could lock love away like smoke in a bottle. Somewhere across the village, Obinna sat under the mango tree, waiting. Not knowing that everything had changed. And that the battle had just begun. The days that followed felt like morning. Not for death, but for a kind of love that had once danced in the open air, now locked behind wooden doors and heavy silences. Amaka's room became a prison. Her father, Chief Nadezi, posted two boys by the entrance of the house to watch her. Her mother no longer spoke softly. There was no more laughter. No more freedom. They took away everything. Her phone, gone. Her favorite books, gone. Even her slippers were hidden so she couldn't sneak out. Each morning, she stared at the ceiling and wondered, is this what love costs? Sometimes she would lean on the window, staring at the mango tree from afar, her eyes filling with tears, wondering if he still went there, if he still waited. And Obinna, poor Obinna. He was not the same. He stopped tapping wine for days. He didn't visit the stream. He didn't smile at the children who used to run to him. Everywhere he went, whispers followed. That's the boy who thought he could marry a chief's daughter. He must be mad. Even a goat knows its level. But he didn't care. He returned to the mango tree every evening, sat on the same rock where they had once shared stories, and stared at the sunset. He would close his eyes and pretend she was still beside him, laughing at one of his silly jokes. His friends begged him to move on. His mother warned him. Love does not feed a man, Obinna. Let her go. But he couldn't. He loved her too deeply, too completely. And so, he waited. Weeks turned into a month. And then another. Amaka was sent away to Enugu to stay with her aunt, far from the village, far from the mango tree, far from him. But distance does not kill love. Not real love. In Enugu, Amaka stayed silent most days. She ate, she cleaned, she studied. But she didn't leave. Her aunt noticed. What are you hiding in your chest, Amaka? She asked one day. Your eyes are full of tears, you haven't cried. And Amaka broke down. She told her everything. The love. The tree. The laughter. The threats. The waiting. Her aunt sighed and hugged her tightly. You're young. But your heart is strong. If that love is true, it will find a way back. One afternoon, while running errands, Amaka passed by a girl from her village who was visiting Enugu. Quickly, she scribbled a note on the back of an old receipt. No long words. No flowery speech. Just this. If your heart still beats for me, wait. I will come back to you. No matter how long. She folded the note, pressed it into the girl's hand, and whispered, please, give this to Obinna. Tell him it's from me. And days later, in Umuleki, Obinna opened that crumpled piece of paper and held it to his chest like a lifeline. He didn't cry. He smiled. A soft, knowing smile. And from that moment on, he began to wait again. Not with pain this time. But with hope. Because when love is real, it survives silence. It survives shame. It survives time. 2 long years passed. 2 years of waiting. 2 years of silence. But love, my friend, is patient. Love is the quiet strength that endures storms and silence alike. And for Amaka and Obinna, that patience would soon be rewarded. The day Obinna returned to Umuleki, it was as if the entire village held its breath. He was no longer the poor, scruffy boy who had once climbed trees for a living. No, this Obinna stood taller, his eyes brighter, his shoulders broader. His clothes were still simple, but there was a kind of dignity in his gait. He had worked hard, he had gone to Onitsha and become a bus conductor, saving every naira he could. He had learned new skills, and little by little, he had built himself into a man who could stand on his own 2 feet. He came back not to beg for her hand, but to show her that he could stand beside her as an equal. It was the day of the New Yam festival. The whole village gathered in the square to celebrate, to dance, and to give thanks. Amaka's heart was heavy, knowing Obinna would be there. He had sent no word. What if he had moved on? What if he had forgotten her? But when she arrived at the square, standing near the entrance, her eyes scanned the crowd, and there he was. Standing across from her. For a moment, the world around her seemed to disappear. There was no festival. No drums, no chatter, no crowd. Just him. The boy who had stolen her heart, standing there with a quiet confidence. Obinna smiled, the same warm, genuine smile she remembered. And without saying a word, he walked toward her. As he came closer, her heart leaped. It was as if time itself bent just for them. She could hear his footsteps, each one bringing him closer. Amaka, he whispered when he reached her. I've waited. I know, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. Without another word, they embraced, tight, long, as if they had both been waiting for that very moment. Amaka looked up at him, eyes filled with tears. Obinna, I thought I had lost you. And I thought I had lost you too, he whispered back. It was then that she realized he had been waiting for her all along, just as she had waited for him. The love they shared wasn't about wealth or status. It wasn't about what they had in the world. It was about the one thing that truly mattered, their hearts. I don't care what my father says anymore, Amaka said, her voice steady. I don't care about titles. I want to be with you. And in that moment, they knew. The whispers of the village had no power over them. Not now. The crowd had started to gather, and Chief Nadezi, standing at the center, watched the two of them, his expression unreadable. But as he met Obinna's gaze, something in his eyes softened, just a little. He had seen the strength in Obinna's eyes. The unwavering love that had never faltered, even when it seemed hopeless. And then, something unexpected happened. Amaka's mother, Mama Ifeoma, stepped forward and took her daughter's hand. You were always my daughter, no matter what, she said softly. And if you choose him, we will stand with you. And with that, Amaka and Obinna were free. Free to love each other without fear, without shame. Later, under the same mango tree where it had all started, they promised each other the life they had always dreamed of, a life where love, above all, was their greatest treasure. They married in the village, a simple ceremony, but one full of joy and laughter. And together, they built their small house by the river, just as they had once dreamed. Children came. Laughter filled the air. And in the end, they found that the greatest riches of all were not gold or land, but love. True, unwavering, and free.